There are no techniques. Techniques are such a joke. Such a joke to think that there are techniques. Or the idea of somebody assisting you. How can they assist you? Because there are 5 levels of the soul. And at that 5th level, there's another level. The Yehida, as the 5th level, is beyond technique. There may be technique in the Nefesh, in the Ruach, in the Neshama. And those are the 3 souls that reside in the body. And then above that, it's like the garments of the body is the higher level. Those are the garments of the body. But then there's another level, which would be considered the house, the room that you're in, the walls. That's the Yehida level. It's not in contact with the body. And then there's an essence level, that Yehida level is in contact with. That's the Atzmutz level. Now remember, a few times ago I said that I was a tree. Does this tree have techniques? It is a tree. It's natural. At this level of Atzmutz, it's let's call Yehida, the Yehida level, a Samadhi level, and then at the Atzmutz level, it's a Sahaj Samadhi, a complete naturalness. And let's examine that word. I've done this before, but it's appropriate now. Atzmutz. Atzmutz is tree, atz, and then mutz is mavet, which means death. Tree of death. And the way things are in deep thought, very often a thing reveals its opposite. Death reveals life when you die to yourself, you see. When you're not as if dead, but when you're dead. When you're dead to the ego life, that's the Atzmutz level. It's the tree level. Beyond ego, beyond animal. It's very deep. That death and the concept of death reveals life. So you can only live when you're dead. When you're out of thought, and you, as I said earlier, lech, no reflection and thought. And this is the Atzmutz level and the Yehida level. And it's the Atzmutz of the Yehida. And this is a spontaneity where there are no practices because you were born that way. In the sexual world these days, People feel that you're born that way. You shouldn't change anything. It's how you are. It's a naturalness. It's non-intellect. All meditation processes are to get you out of the intellect. See? That's why the Zen stare at a wall. So this is to quiet the mind, quiet the two sides of yes and no. And that's the action of, I wrote a couple words down, I've called this beyond religion, you see. Religion, remember the word religion means to retie. Well, you don't have to retie. You never left. So there's beyond retying. Because after you're there, you realize that you never left. And it was only an illusion that you left. Or that you could leave in the first place. Because you always were tied. This isn't a retying, because you were always tied. There was always a zika. See? An attachment. This attachment occurs with everybody, in everything. That's why you have to be very careful. Every time you talk to a woman or a woman talks to a man, there's an attachment forever. Do you want that with that person you're attaching to? Be very careful with that. So I'm going to just go through this. Does a tree have a religion? A bird. Does a bird have a religion? Sounds funny. Yet a bird's out there singing in the morning. Singing in Nagun without words. Higher than the intellect. The intellect has words, but a Nagun is beyond words. So a Nagun doesn't come from the intellect. This is a good question to find out for yourself. Does one in samadhi practice meditation? Or is he meditation himself? It's a naturalness. It's the naturalness, I call, of getting out of the way of a car. When a car comes at you in the street, you'll find some combination of movements to get out of the way. And that's what we're talking about in a Sahaj Samadhi. And we're talking about a naturalness and a Atzmuts level of the Yehida. Remember, in general, we're only in a natural state. This is what I'm trying to attain here today. A natural state of contact with the earth. Don't become too highfalutin. You're not going to be here forever. And so the one thing that you have to respect is your time. So don't waste your time with frivolous pursuits. Everybody knows what their frivolous pursuits are. And for some, it may just be answering a phone call. And depending on what stage of life you're in and how much time you want to waste, that it becomes like dog years. A minute at the age of 70 isn't worth the same as a minute at the age of 17. You can waste a minute at the age of 17, but not at the age of 70. They become precious. Remember, actually, it was only a few hours ago, I did a video on the idea of dying every moment with every breath. And so that's actually the Eitz Mavet. The tree of death is breath itself. And what happens to you when you're breathing and then die, and then being born again with the next breath. And that next breath has a different aspect of the soul and reveals a different aspect of the soul. And in a certain sense has nothing to do with the previous breath. They look the same. And that's what fools you. See, they look the same, but they're completely different. And so that's what all this leads to. See? It's a revelation, a realization of naturalness. And how sad that we all have been put in a position that we have to intellectually get to the natural. How sad. Singing, dancing, playing, eating simply, living simply. Being in touch with the sunrise, nature, being in touch with the ground. The social control blocked us from all this. And it takes a real fight to come to recognize what we're actually doing and how we can attain states of being and consciousness that were part of our birthright and blocked from. And that's what's sad. That we all bought into the social control. That first social control was school. Then the next social control is the profession. And then, family. All these social controls are to keep you from your Yehida, which can only be found far away Remember, the three aspects of the soul in the body. The fourth aspect are the clothes, which are external to the body. And the fifth aspect, the yehida, is far. It's the ceiling here relative to the clothes. It's removed. So to get there, you have to remove yourself from your environment. It cannot be found in the environment that you're in. The other aspects of the soul can be. But the yehida can only be found, number one, in my opinion, in Golos, and in my opinion, in a temporary state, like traveling in sukkahs, or with clouds of glory over your head. Relying on mom. This is my opinion, which means nothing. This is what I've read and what my body intuits. And so this developmental process of the perpetual journey, is the removal from permanence. And that in itself is a death of the known. To enter the unknown requires a death of the established and the known. So if we have to elucidate, or whatever the word is, my system of consciousness, it's the concept of what I call homelessness. Homeless. The next thing is jobless. To devote all that energy, all that time of your life to a job. Whoa. Whoa. You'll never, ever get there. No work. That's not the work of an enlightened person, to work at a job. No. To sell insurance, to sell frozen food, no. So, if you want to, if you're interested, drop everything. Be natural and see what happens.